Welcome. I'm Rob. This is episode 112 of the running journey. With me today on this episode, Charlie and I are going to be interviewing probably the first member of the running community that I knew, Bryce Saunders. Good buddy, plays hockey with Charlie. Also, first guy I knew that kind of completed an Ironman. First guy I knew that had a coach. Back in the day when I started down this whole path, I didn't know anyone. Like my brother was my only source of inspiration for running, and he connected me to Bryce and said, you know what? Bryce just did an Ironman. He's got a coach. Maybe you could do an Ironman, Rob, and maybe you could work with Bryce to figure this out. So I did, hired Patrick, and we now all work with Patrick, and Bryce tells all those fun stories. I also talk about the nickname that I gave him. We talk a bit about some of my stand-up comedy ideas that are coming up, his triathlon training, whether or not we like it more or less. And we talk about his most recent attempt at qualifying for the Boston Marathon. He just ran a race on Saturday, and he takes us through it. And it's a bit of a pilgrimage, in his own words, as we go back to the scene of the crime, the Mount Charleston Marathon just outside of Vegas, where Charlie and I ran. It's probably my second best race ever. I did a 3:23, and it was so fun. And spoiler alert, no, I'm not going to tell you how it went. You got to listen to the episode. But this is Charlie and I chatting with Bryce Saunders. Enjoy the episode, guys. All right, welcome, guys. Another episode of The Running Journey. I'm Rob. I'm well-dressed today, wearing a blazer, look at me, and a golf shirt. Charlie, good to see you. Fresh from a trip out in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Not fresh, but yes.
Well, I'd say you're not fresh because of all the travel.
Yeah.
And the long mileage. We got a guest today. Excited about this guest, Bryce Saunders. Bryce, thanks for joining us today.
Hey guys, good to see you.
All right. Bryce was probably, would you say, Charlie, he was probably our first ever listener to our podcast, or one of the only person that listened at first? Maybe he doesn't like us.
I don't know if he listens actually, but
I do. Long-time listener. First-time caller.
First-time caller. I gotta say, like, Bryce, one of the most exciting moments in my running journey is a time I'll never forget, when I was on the plane or I think it was in the car on the way back with Charlie. And I was like, now what? I had just run a sub 4, and Charlie said, you should do an Ironman. And he said, my buddy Bryce just did one. And I knew you, obviously. I knew you as Sundin from way back. By the way, why did I know you as Sundin? Did you wear a Sundin jersey once? And like, that's
no. You made a big leap. I just had a Leafs hat because my dad lived in Toronto. He was a lifetime Leafs fan. So he gave me the hat and it fit. So I wore it. And then I met you guys. It was a poker game or something.
You were at a party, I think, or something.
One of your French family gatherings. And everyone was just Habs galore at this party. And I realized I'd worn the wrong hat.
And I was drunkenly annoying. And I called you were
chirping me as Sundin, and I think I saw you like a year later in Minneapolis, and of course I was still wearing the hat, and I could just hear from across the parking lot at the baseball game. You're like, Sundin.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I think you were drunk again.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
for sure. Was that like?
It's safe to say that the Maple Leafs wasn't the most popular team at that party, I would say.
No,
yeah,
huge mistake.
Just you and Funk. Yeah, you chose to wear a Leafs hat at the wrong party, I guess.
Yeah, no one told me about it.
And I labeled you as Sundin. Okay, I thought maybe you were wearing a jersey. I don't remember. I just thought of that today. I'm like, Sundin.
Okay.
So anyways, so Sundin, Charlie's like, Sundin. Well, you didn't say Sundin. You're like, Bryce did an Ironman. Bryce just did an Ironman like a month before you had done the Ironman. And it's like, you could probably do that, Rob, is what you had said, Charlie. And he's got a coach. And I think like, his coach is like helping him train. And I was like, wow, cool.
We had just basically started running at that point, right?
This was our first sub 4. This was Tucson, which would have been like, what was that? Like November or December 2021? Am I close?
December 2021.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we had just started running. I just like, that was my first sub 4. And then you said Bryce. And I remember like that was the only other guy I knew that was currently running. Like the running community circle was you, Charlie, and then this guy right here that we're having on our podcast today. So welcome. All that's your intro, Bryce. Chirp you about the Sundin, chirp you about wearing the hat. and then give you props for, because I remember back then, man, Charlie said, this guy did an Ironman. I remember thinking like, what the heck? Like, I know someone who did an Iron, like, wow, Bryce did an Ironman. Like I'm not trying to say it's not that impressive now, but back then I was like, that's impossible. Like,
well, yeah, I don't know. For you, for me, it was like very inspiring. Like, because we played on the same hockey team, and you talked about your Ironman training, and it was like, I knew at some point I was like, okay, I think I want to do that at some point, but it wasn't like today thing, but it was a future thing for sure.
Yeah, that's such a cool moment. And it happened to me too, when you meet an ordinary person, hear that they did an Ironman, and realize that you could actually consider it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, before that, I didn't consider. Once I knew you had done one, Bryce, I was like, okay, I can do that.
It's doable.
Yeah.
But that is kind of how it goes, though. Because Charlie, that day you told me Bryce did an Ironman, I was like, holy smokes. Like, I knew you, I knew you were fit, but I was like, I can get to that level of fitness. I think like it was inspiring for me too. Was that, how long had you been running or training, or when did you start running?
I was kind of couch potato in my 20s, and I gave up smoking, which is
Wow, you
big,
smoked?
yeah, this was a big challenge to stop, and I replaced it with chips and dip, and I gained all this weight, and I didn't really notice, but I put on like 50 pounds, and it was actually the factory workers at Geldwin, where I worked at the time, who just started like poking me and saying, "Oh, you're getting fat," and they were right that I
Body
gained
shaming you.
Yeah, 50 pounds. So I needed a way
Unacceptable.
to deal with that, and so I just signed up for a marathon back in like 2006. And I joined one of those running room courses and had to learn the sport from scratch that I'd never run before. And over that first year, I did my first marathon, lost all the weight, got back to my normal self, and I think I said that was like 18 years ago. And over time, as you guys have probably experienced, it sort of becomes your identity doing these things.
Okay. So my favorite type of chips is ketchup chips. What about you, Bryce?
Yeah, same. Old Dutch ketchup.
Old Dutch
And
ketchup. Okay. Great flavor. What about you, Rob?
yeah,
I got to tell this story. So
okay.
I've been doing stand-up comedy. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I did my first tour, and I did 3 dates. And in my first
the plain chips.
The plain chips. Have you heard this one already, Charlie?
I've heard it. Yeah.
No, but I didn't tell it when I told. Like I improv did at Claude's retirement party. I was just like,
Okay.
our dad, he didn't even let us have chips. That's kind of what I said at Claude's retirement. But then I worked it into a bit. How like my whole life, I just thought that there was nothing but plain chips. And I went to a guy's house, and his mom pulls out the ketchup chips. She's like, "What kind of chips do you want?" I was like, "You mean to tell me there's more than just plain chips?" Anyways, it killed at my
the Repels, remember?
Well, Claude, all he ever ate was
the ones with the ridges.
Yeah, ridges. But even that was like a special occasion. But like plain chips, our whole life. Anyways, this joke about Claude and his plain chips, it really killed. And you know what I added, Charlie? I added your version, which is, what's all dressed? Oh, it's all the flavors in one. Why wouldn't you buy that? All the flavors, the same price.
I did like all dressed at some point, but
no, neither did Claude.
Back to ketchup.
No, if I'm a chips guy, I'm definitely dill by far. Dill pickle by far. Anyways, so I've been doing stand-up comedy. It's been super fun. I'm trying to line up a tour. I think I'm going to do a tour in New Brunswick and try to really do this, because it's when you're on stage and you're trying to scramble to make people laugh, it's like the biggest rush possible. So
for you. Are you just immune to anxiety? Like the things you sign up for blow my mind.
Well, this one is outside my comfort zone.
He's immune to anxiety. Like I've been around him, and I'm like, I like turn my head and close my eyes and walk the other way. He's like, no shame, not worried about it. Yeah.
Well, I think there was a long period in my life where I thrived off of getting those anxious laughs from people. Like I thrived off making Charlie feel uncomfortable. Like we'd go to this thing, and like people would be like, "Rob, you can't do that. Like, don't do that. Don't, I don't know, say that to that person or make that person feel uncomfortable." And I used to just love it. But this is different because now I'm on stage, and if I flop, I flop. But I'm gonna try to do this. I'm not trying. I'm doing it. I'm gonna book probably a 4-night tour in New Brunswick. I'm going to book a co-headliner, and I'm going to headline. I'm going to try to do 40 minutes. I've never done more than 20. I'm going to try to do 40 minutes. And it's all basically, you met my dad, Sundin, a bunch of times.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like how funny our parents are.
Okay.
It's kind of like an homage to them, but we're also making fun of them also. Anyways, enough about me and my stand-up comedy. You're the guest here on the show. Bryce, I got to stop calling you Sundin. Now I feel terrible for calling you that. I was like, I've done this so many times in my life where I just give someone a nickname and then it kind of sticks.
Yeah.
So when did you do your first? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Bryce.
No, it makes me laugh because I'm not a Sundin fan. I'm not even a Leafs fan, but I just had the hat. That's how you know me now.
Yeah. But you ran your first marathon when?
Is the Manitoba back in 2007.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was one of my better ones. I think it was like 4:20 that I finished. And I think I had kicked smoking, but if I remember, I had fallen off the wagon and ended up like smoking it around the time of the race and then lighting one up after the finish line.
Oh my
which,
God.
If you want to be a pariah in the running community, just try lighting a smoke at the marathon. And yeah, almost
in those days you could just light them up at the finish line, probably.
You could do it anywhere. It was fine.
Like the guy on the 7 marathon, 7 days, 7 continents, Charlie, the Chinese guys who were just smoking darts all the time.
Really? There were
right
runners
at,
on
right
that
at the finish line.
Yeah, right. Every time we'd leave the airport, they're hacking darts, and every time we'd remember on my socials, I posted about these guys, and they became kind of mini famous for me because they're loving their darts. I never thought you smoked. Wow. And Charlie, you smoked too at some point.
Yeah, I smoked. Yep.
Oh, we're not allowed to talk about that, Bryce. Sorry.
No,
did you see
no, we can talk about it. Whatever. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so 2007.
Oh, no, but Bryce could never smoke.
Well, he said he was smoking.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just. It can't come out, I guess.
Oh, it can't come out. Okay.
Yeah. No.
So then when did you, so you ran and then you did a 4:20 and then was that your first Ironman in 2021?
Yeah. First and only.
Oh, only. Okay.
Yeah. You guys seem to latch onto it a little better. I struggled with the swimming. I was always slow, and you do those training runs at the pool and the old fat guys are just blowing by you in the other lane. Demoralizing, but kind of motivating that it is to see that they can do that. They're these big penguins.
They're in there every day though, probably 6 a.m. or whatever, right?
Yeah, just driving home that it's technique, that you just can't muscle your way to a faster swim as much as I tried. And the biking I liked a lot, but it was just a struggle to find places in East Kildonan where you can bike for more than a couple of miles without dealing with a lot of traffic. So it was always the running part of the triathlon that I liked. And it was enough for me to just kind of give up the sport and focus on the running.
Like me.
Yeah. Do you still do triathlon at all? Or are you just all running?
No, I mean, I got to go get a Guinness record there next month. But aside from that, I don't know if I'm done, but I really enjoy running quite a bit more than Charlie. I don't like the Ironman training as much as Charlie does.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he's better at it than me.
I mean, I don't know that I enjoy it's a lot of training, the Ironman training. Like Bryce, yeah, I remember when you were telling me about your workouts when you were Ironman training, and like you did a half Ironman just for practice that one time with Drew. And like Ironman training is grueling. Like I like marathon training seems easy when you think about Ironman training, and also funner. So I told my wife, this is my last Ironman. I got one more here and I'm done, but she doesn't believe me. So
Bryce, how do you feel about the level of gruelingness? Is that a word? Because I remember you were telling me about when I started. Okay, when I did my first Ironman, you were the only person. Well, my neighbors had done an Ironman, but we weren't like I would text you and I'd ask you about your weeks and whatever, and you would kind of share with me. I remember one conversation. I was falling off the wagon on the food. I don't know if you remember this. You saved me because I was like freaking out. I was losing my mind. I was like 3 weeks before. I was in my 3 weeks before I was in my big weeks, like those 20-hour weeks where you're doing like 6 hours on the weekend and the
Okay, wait,
run.
Rob. So you're talking about when you were training for Ironman, you were like texting Bryce because he had already experienced it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. And I will go back to your training, but I just want to tell this quick story. You were like, I was like, Bryce, I can't do it. I can't keep my diet. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like and you're like, dude, my last 3 weeks I lived off Reese's Pieces and Mars bars or something like that. You told me, and like it immediately made me feel like you're like, dude, you're doing 20 hours a week. You're doing great, Rob. Don't worry about it. Like diet is the detail right now. Like just you're doing great. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. Like you kind of put me back in my place that I was so worried that I wasn't eating enough chicken breast or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like you had helped me through. So how were those training weeks for Ironman?
It was tough because you've got to draw from that same reservoir of self-control for everything in your day, which starts with 2 hours of training in the morning and kind of drains the tank. Then you got to go to work and make decisions all day and build relationships, and then come home and save some for your family and your kids and invest in them. And then it's evening and you're hungry and there's just nothing left to make good decisions. So yeah, it was the habits that helped. Because I certainly wasn't deciding my way to good snacks at that time. I might have shopped my way to it if I had ordered, the right things in advance. But it was just impossible. It was so hard to be dialed in all day, and then you were sore on top of it.
How do you feel about, Charlie, this point that you're raising right now about how hard it is to train for Ironman versus train for marathon? Like I did we just, all three of us just did a pretty aggressive build for this, our races. And you just had your race, Bryce. Charlie, you're having yours in a week and a half and mine's in 2.5 weeks. And yeah, the peak weeks are tough, but like they're not Ironman tough.
I mean, there's 2 workouts that are over 2 hours in the entire training block, pretty much, right? And
there's a few more than that. The 18 milers, the 20 milers.
Well, those, yeah, I mean, at your pace, you're doing them on what are you talking about? I mean, they're about 2. There's quite a few that are about 2 hours.
Yeah.
But like, how many are over 3 hours long? There's like 2. In an Ironman, you're going out 6 hours every weekekend. Like,
and you're on the bike, and then you do a run after it.
Yeah. Like it's just the time. The time that it takes is grueling. It's not even the exercise. It's just the amount of time that it takes out of your schedule. And then you bring up a good point, Bryce, like about the amount of willpower. Like, so you're kind of done with the willpower by the end of the day is kind of what you were saying, right? Like, like you've been focused on being disciplined all day, and then at the end of the day, it's really hard to stay disciplined. I feel that. I feel that all the time. Yeah.
And then it takes a toll on your spouse too. Remember, my wife was stay at home at the time, so she'd be with the kids all week long, and then Saturday I would just peace out and go to Birds Hill Park for 8 hours, train, and she was getting sick of it. So I ended up hiring almost like a nanny or a babysitter every Saturday for a 6-hour chunk during that time, so that Nikki wouldn't be this widow at home with no help with the kids.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that for my next one here. So.
Yeah, and it's a good soundbite too, right? Because your wife remembers that you did that. And then on Sundays, I would take the kids to a movie, and so that I could load up on sodium for the week for the training that was coming, and then fall asleep in the chair because we were watching Paw Patrol or some kind of cartoon that just wasn't a riveting movie. So I could catch a snooze and still get some time with the kids, get them away from Nikki. Like those kind of tricks is what was needed, just like to not have grounds for divorce because you had signed up for all these events.
Yeah,
I call it the $80 nap.
Go to the movie, because they recline now, the chairs.
Oh, they're more than $80 now. They're really expensive. Like,
I guess if you factor in the snacks, but back in the day it was an $80
nap. Now it's $150 nap.
Yeah.
So I took my kids this weekend to Minecraft.
I did too.
Yeah, they loved it.
Nice.
Anyways,
Did you nap? I thought
I
that's
did
what
not
the
nap.
story was.
I did
Okay,
not
Stayed
nap.
up.
So
Well, because I came back from Europe, my whole timing, sleeping stuff is kind of still way off. But
I took him to see Minecraft also at the Winkler Theater in Winkler, Manitoba, because we
nice.
were skiing at La Rivière, and I napped. Obviously, I always do. And then I asked my kids on the way out, like, does anyone remember? I'm like my dad. Like, does anyone remember a movie that I haven't napped in? Because we go to movies, I don't know, once every couple of months, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like an automatic. Like it's been probably 15 years since I haven't
Okay.
not napped in a movie. So I like it. I like napping. You kind of know what's happening in the movie anyways, and you don't really, it's details. So that being said, are you done with Ironman? You did one, you did it.
I thought I'd do one every 5 years, but just the hunger hasn't been building, and this is coming up on year 4 since my last one. And you got to train too, and choose a race. So I'm undecided, but leaning toward just the running for the future.
Yeah,
'Cause you
had
can
a good career.
Yeah,
Had a good Ironman career.
I feel bad for the coach because these coaches, they want to take people on who are going to contribute to the sport and give back. And really, I haven't. I haven't volunteered at the local races. I haven't even competed in the local races. So I feel kind of bad about not making more deposits that way.
You're making deposits with your checkbook.
Yeah, I guess you still pay.
Yeah. No, do you think you're still with Patrick?
Yeah, I had started with Dave Lipshin. Have you crossed paths with him before? Um,
I know who he
he's
is. He's apparently pretty good.
Yeah, he's super fit. He's competitive. His training plans were good, but I had switched after a false start. My Ironman was supposed to be in 2020, but because of COVID, they punted it a year. And I switched over to Pat Peacock because he was so data driven that he was the first one I knew who was using Training Peaks, which you guys have think use as well, right?
Yeah.
So you can program in your workouts, and then he can see your heart rate and how you're doing, and then make adjustments along the way. I just get a big kick out of that. Just the analytics alone is enough for me to love this sport.
Yeah, I don't know how
you like looking at data for sure.
Yeah, you and Charlie are the same. I'm also a data guy for sure, but I don't know any other way that you would coach. Like I feel like how would you not have that data? How would you coach and not have that data? It'd be tough.
The first coach, I think it was all just feel and verbal feedback. He was kind of old school that way, but it didn't click for me. It wasn't motivating enough.
How did you get into Patrick? How did you cross paths with Patrick?
It was a podcast. Have you ever heard of Triathlon Taryn?
Yeah. I used to work with him.
No way.
Yeah, he was an advisor back in the day, Taryn Giselle at National Bank.
Okay.
Yeah. We worked together. Yeah.
He got into triathlon.
Yeah, he was trying to make it a go of it back then, and then it went.
And it was a running coach that I had back in 2018, I think. He was the first one I knew who did an Ironman, and I asked, like, can I do one, and where would I start? And he said, well, first look online, check out this Triathlon Taryn. So Taryn was being coached by Pat Peacock and had interviewed him on his podcast. And I just remember being so impressed by how humble this guy was, but accomplished as well. It's like Taryn had to interrogate the accomplishments out of him because Pat just didn't want to share. He didn't want to brag about it. And I thought,
he's only been triathlete of the year for Manitoba for like 12 years or something
straight.
Yeah, this is the guy that I want to work with. And I ended up buying his road bike from him because he was upgrading, and that's how we met. And then I asked if he was taking on any weekend warrior athletes that he'd be willing to train, and he was.
And that's
so you paved the way for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bryce.
Yeah. The regular Joe is getting in with the triathlete coach.
Yeah.
So that's like Charlie. You said I think he's got a coach, and then I was like, Bryce, who trains you? You're like Patrick Peacock. I was like, okay, give me his number. I'm in. And I was like, I just decided that day, all right, I'll use Bryce. Bryce did an Ironman. I'm just going to follow Bryce's path here, and it's going to work. And as I did, I met with Patrick and I started with him like that day, that week.
Okay. And you guys have used him for all of your stuff.
Yeah, I've not stopped.
Yeah. So for me, what I like about him is he just cares. So I actually, Rob, I met, I was in the airport and I met Carolyn and John Coppin.
Oh, cool.
Were in
You're going
the
to the marathon or the World Championships or whatever he was going
He did
to.
it already. He
ran
a 420 in the 1500.
I'm aware. I saw it on Strava.
Anyways, so I was saying, like, the reason I like Patrick so much is because he like cares, right? Like, no matter what, and he's reasonable, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's expand on that a little bit, Charlie, if you don't mind. Like, he cares, as in, like, he cares about your runs. He wants you to perform better.
Yeah, like, I feel like he's invested in how well we do in our performance, and it's not just, oh, I'm gonna give you guys a plan and you guys will follow it, and it's up to you after, right? It's like I feel like he's part of, like, we're a team,
We are a team for sure. I'm not asking you to expand because I'm disagreeing. I was going to expand on what you're saying. And then I was going to ask Bryce about that same comment. Like, I don't know any other way to work with a coach, but like, my experience is a 15 on 10 or whatever. I don't want to do that because that's cheating, but it's a 10 on 10 for sure. I get so much from it, and I get excited when I see his comments, and I get the notifications on, and I go see what he says. And he always kind of layers his energy by the same amount of energy that I'm putting into my comment. So if I'm like so happy about something, because I'm a bipolar runner, Bryce, then he's like, he's telling me that. And he's if I just put like a one line, feel good today, awesome, then he'll go, great to see. So you still work with Patrick, Bryce?
Yeah, he got me through this most recent race that I did. And anytime I sign up for something, as soon as I register, I'm in touch with Pat, and we're getting started on that first chunk of the schedule and how we're going to get ready for it. That's the best part, isn't it? Is that beginning of the training call that you have for him, where you tease out what the goals are and what the path would be to accomplishing that.
It is exciting.
I can't wait for my Ironman call after I get this Boston thing over with.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie, do you go in seasons with Patrick? I've just been having him on the payroll since that first day.
Yeah, no, I just keep going. But I think Bryce kind of,
marathon
he does more like off seasons, and he's more reasonable than we are, Rob. We haven't talked. So 2007 was your first. I think I'd be interested about hearing, like, from 2007. I know I know you a little bit, and I know that for you, like, a lot of it is you have some family that runs, you have some friends that run, and that there's kind of that social aspect. So I'd be interested to hear about kind of that journey from 2006 to your Ironman and how that's gone for you.
Yeah, I guess the spark, it came from the weight loss, but also seeing my wife's dad, Claude. He finished a marathon. I was back in like 2004, 2005 or something. And that's when I realized that it was possible to run 26 miles. And it was just so inspiring to be there at the finish line and see him do it. We really got emotional over that. And it was just good for his life at the time too. And the more we got into it, the more people in our lives started to get into it. So a couple of years after my first marathon, my dad flew to town and we did a half marathon. We did the WPS in May. I think it was about 2010 maybe, and just ran it mile for mile together. And we trained together too. We had the same training plan and would check in on each other. It was before the days of like Training Peaks and Strava and stuff. So we had to be a little more manual in the sharing of our information. But we were just each other's witness for that journey to go on. And then we did a full together a couple of years later, my dad and I. And he still runs to this day into his, I think he's 70 this year. And he just finished a half marathon down in Phoenix. So I think it's been life-changing for him. And then my friend Drew from high school.
Wait, did your dad start running with you, or did he run before?
He ran a bit when I was a kid, but not events like the way that we do now. He
But
would just do it to be active.
Bryce, like you guys have done a number of events too. Like it's not just one. Like you guys have done lots of events together. Like I feel like that's kind of a really special experience. I kind of wish I would have had more of with my dad.
Yeah, we did a half marathon down in Vegas. My dad, my brother, and my sister and I flew down in 2019 and had a trip there, and that was cool. It's just a great way to bring your friends and family together. And my friend Drew and I, that's been a fun head-to-head.
Drew's your nemesis, but he's pretty good.
And I don't even know if I call it a rivalry because I've never beaten him.
Well, he's never done an Ironman, so you got him there.
Yeah, true.
Drew.
Let's
call out Drew. You need to do an Ironman.
He hasn't done a full marathon either. Injuries have kind of gotten in his way, but I'm sure that if he did sign up, he'd do really well. But yeah, just competing with him has been motivating because he's a fun guy to compete with, and he's just fast. We did the half together or against each other, Father's Day in 2018, and I secretly took a running course to try and get an edge on him, and it was about a week before the event.
I know.
Yeah. We were at his birthday party, and Nikki, my wife, was saying to Drew, "Oh, I just can't wait till this running course is over, then I can have him back." And Drew's like, "What running course?" So she had let the cat out of the bag, and it kind of twigged him that I was trying to beat him this time. And so we ran. We started at different times, so we didn't know how each other was doing on this race. And he beat me again by 3 seconds.
Oh, come on.
I remember that. I remember that. I had assumed that you guys had ran it together and it was like a sprint to the finish. That would have been
that would have been fun.
Yeah.
We were blind to each other's progress.
Yeah,
and
did you guys? I remember you guys. Did you guys not do like some kind of 5K challenge against each other too, or something?
Yeah, I think that was in the pandemic. So we couldn't find an actual race, so we just trained and then ran around like the Tuxedo Golf Course. There's a big square there that you can run, and yeah, we called it the Breaking 20 Challenge. We were trying to do a 5K in under 20 minutes, and he took off like a shot, and I chased him as best I could, but eventually I just couldn't catch him. So he broke 20 minutes, and I was 21, I think, which felt like a lifetime behind him in this race.
Still pretty fast.
But yeah, he's a good runner. He's a motivating guy to chase because he's always getting faster, kind of like you guys.
You also did in that time, like you did the Disney thing too, right?
Yeah,
and you PR'd every distance, if I'm not mistaken.
My sister and my wife and we all did that event. I don't know if you guys have done it before, but
no. Talk about it. Assume we know nothing about it.
It's down in Disney World. Yeah, and each race starts in Epcot Center, and super early in the morning before the parks open up. And the first day is a 5K. The second day is a 10K. The third day is a half marathon, and then the fourth day is a full. And so you're up at 3 a.m. getting on the bus to go to the start line, and then run the race as best you can, and then take your kids through the parks for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then repeat it. It was the most exhausting vacation I've ever been on. It was so good to get home after.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I would want to do that just because of the park thing. Like I'd get the heck out of Dodge, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it was synergy, really. We didn't get a vacation and races. We just sort of got a watered down version of both that way.
But you had some really good results in that from what I remember.
Yeah, it was by accident because it was hard to sign up. So my wife, my sister, and I, we were all trying to register 8 months before, and the website shut down. But then Nikki, she got through and she signed us all up, but she had to choose which corral we would start. And she just picked whatever looked good, whatever her previous times had indicated. But it was a little bit slower than I would have signed up for, especially with going for a good result. So I ended up way back in the corral behind thousands. I think it was 10,000 people in each race. And we were like more than halfway back. So you couldn't blow up on these races because there was too much of a crowd.
Yeah,
it
you
actually
couldn't get
held.
by everyone. It was just too dense.
So that was the trick
Yeah.
that I used to do. Rob. Remember, I used to always start right at the back, no matter what
Yeah,
race.
but yeah, that
I stopped doing that, but I think it works in a lot of cases.
well, in Chicago, it was like so difficult for me to get through those people. I started in the charity corral way in the back and
Okay.
5-hour runners, and I was trying to do a 3-hour. That was not fun. But I could see that if you got 4 races in 4 days and you're trying to just not blow up, that would be force you to go a little slower.
Yeah. By day 4, I had the best marathon of my life, and I
Gas in the tank.
expected the worst.
Just needed a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon warm up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a big crowd, sore legs to run on because you can't really.
And Bryce, like that was
Yeah.
your PR too, right? By lots, I think.
Oh yeah, by
What did you do that day?
And you said it was your legs that killed you, right? Oh,
it was. I've got it on the wall. Is 3:36 was the half, and my previous best was, I think officially it was the 4:20. So it was way faster.
3:36 for the full.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
And
like Charlie. You got it on the wall.
Yeah, you get those. Well, the wall's not in great shape, but you get the medals and your times on there.
Oh no, that was Tristan Da Silva who had it on his wall. Sorry. Okay. I
Okay.
interviewed him last week and I asked him about his PR and he says, just a sec, I have it on my wall. And he pulled it off his wall. Sorry, keep going. So you have it on your and you did a 3:36 that day.
Yeah, it was my first time using those super shoes. I had the
Oh yeah, let's go.
Alpha
Cheater
Flies.
Shoes.
Yeah.
Those are
And
pretty good shoes, yeah.
when I had them on, I thought, have they astroturfed this entire park? Because this road is feeling spongy right now. And it took me a while to realize that it was just the shoes. Because when we came back to that same park that day with the kids,
Wait,
wearing
Bryce, did
normal
you
shoes.
run it on 0 miles? Like basically, it was had you done a bit of running with them before?
I did a couple test runs, but not
Okay.
enough to realize that the shoes give me blisters and that they're just super
Yeah,
tight.
they give you blisters, but they make you go faster. Yeah.
Yeah, it was worth the trade-off. Those are great shoes.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to lead into kind of what you've been doing since then. I want to talk about this race that you just did, if you want to talk about it. I also want to talk about what you got coming up, but maybe take us through kind of, I guess, so now it's COVID. When did you start working with Patrick for the Ironman?
Yeah, in 2021.
Okay, and then he's coached you through marathon builds and stuff. And what have you? How has it gone since your Ironman? Sorry, remind me. Your Ironman was in Phoenix, right, or Tucson?
Yeah, it was in Arizona, the Tempe one in Phoenix.
Tempe, yeah.
And it took you like 13, 14 hours, something like that?
Yeah, about 13 and a half.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. It was a full day in the sun, which is tough to train for as a Winnipegger in November, right? I mean, you can sit in a tanning bed for a few minutes, but how do you simulate 13 hours in the sun? And then they had the expo the day before where you're walking around setting up your stuff and the sun's just beating on you. You don't even realize it.
14:48 I did, Bryce. 14:48 in Des Moines in the sun for my first one. It was
really?
Yeah, it was torture. It was like, well, obviously it was awesome, but it was also so hot that I wasn't used to that heat. There's no shade, no way to get around it. Like I couldn't escape this heat.
Yeah. The locals don't seem to mind, but as Winnipeggers, it just we're like vampires. It just gets to us.
Yeah. So that's a good time. 13:30 in the heat on your first one. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say overall it went okay. I was happy with it. I think I was shooting for 13 on the day, so I didn't miss it that much.
And then you do these builds. What have you been doing? You gonna do 2 marathons a year, or you do some halves, or what do you do?
It usually depends on what's going on at work. The last couple of years at work have been kind of tough. We're in the renovation industry, and so COVID was a big boost, but then the bottom sort of fell out. So I wasn't running as much, or wasn't racing as much during the last couple of years, just trying to turn things around at work. But lately it's been much better. So I felt like I could come up for air and then maybe be selfish and sign up for something. and get back to the race. So there was the Disney one in 2023, and then this my latest one was on Saturday in Mount Charleston in Nevada,
in Vegas, just outside of Vegas.
Yeah, and I chose this one because you guys chose this one. So I had a roadmap to go on. It looked like it was earlier in your running journey.
It was. I did a 3:23 there, Charlie. I think you did a 3:26 from what I recall. Am I close, Charlie? Did you listen to our podcast episode for that one before you ran it?
3:25.
I should have. That would have been the one to listen to.
Because we dissected the course inside out in that podcast episode. I'm positive. I remember us, and I'm looking at your Strava here, and I recall all these moments. And Wyatt Moss, who's been on the podcast, the 50 states guy, ran it on Saturday.
Oh, he was there.
Yeah, he was the one wearing, I don't know if you saw him, but he was wearing he was a dog from Toy Story, and it was a 2-person thing. Did you see that?
I saw that guy at the start line, and I think he was giving a speech at the expo too. Is he a coach or something?
He's kind of like famous now. He's an influencer.
Okay.
He was on 777 with us. So we got to hang out with him. Yeah, and he's kind of a cool guy. We interviewed him here on the podcast. I didn't know he was doing that marathon. But they dressed up as the dog from Toy Story, the Slinky in between, and they kind of like 2 guys ran a marathon together. And I saw his Instagram, and I'm like, that is Mount Charleston. I'm positive.
Okay.
And then, sure enough,
what was his time? Do you know?
I didn't check, but I don't think he's not like you and me. Well, I don't know about you, but
he can run fast though.
He can certainly run fast, but I think when he's doing this content creation, he's more focused on the content.
He's editing videos as he's running.
What's his last name?
Moss. Wyatt Moss. And I saw him, and then I immediately was just taken back. That was one of my all-time. That was probably my second most fun race ever in my life. It was that day was fun. Charlie, do you remember that day?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as you did.
Okay, fine. You enjoyed it. Just because I beat you by 2 minutes right at the end?
Yeah.
Bryce, how did...
I had but I didn't have my super shoes, Bryce.
I don't think you were doing gels back then either.
I did no gels, and I did just regular flat shoes.
So here I am, Bryce. Yeah. I'm taking gels. I'm wearing the cheater shoes. Yeah. And I'm taking gels, and I'm like, Charlie, you want a gel? He's like, no, that's for losers. I don't know what he was saying, but
no, I didn't say that.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm good.
And I just kind of held our little pace there and had a great fun day. It is very downhill, 5,600, 5,700 feet or something. Am I close?
Yeah. It's a huge drop.
So that's like a mile, right? It's over a mile of downhillness.
Yeah, I think it averages a 4% downgrade.
So did you have a goal going in?
Yeah, I wanted to qualify for Boston the way that you guys had. Though this wasn't the race that you did it on, it looked like a good one for that.
Yeah.
And I'll be at the next Boston Marathon in 2026, I'll be 45. So whatever time I would get this year would be my 45 plus qualifying time, or at least that's my understanding.
Yeah, and that is what, 3:20 right now?
Officially, it's 3:15.
3:15. Oh yeah, we talked 5 minutes off.
It all went down by 5. Yeah.
And then I think they're probably shaving more off based on the number of people that would qualify. Is that how it works?
Potential, but there's that would be.
Yeah, there's usually a cutoff, like a buffer or whatever. And
what do you think? Guessing, Charlie, it's going to be.
I had told Bryce that I thought 3:12 was kind of what. I know that
3 minutes of buffer in addition.
I know that Todd was thinking it might be lower, but I think 3:10 to 3:12 is probably a really good.
But that would be another 5 minutes off last year. Am I wrong, Charlie?
No, last year was 7.5 below.
Wow.
Oh, 7.5 below, and then they chopped 5. Okay, 2.5. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So makes another sense. Minute or two for sure would make sense. I think that's just everyone's getting faster. More people are getting to the sport. More cheater shoes. More gels.
But so Boston was a lot of the thing is a lot of people qualify in Boston and New York and Chicago.
Right.
And Boston was a lot harder than usual last year. Had less qualifiers, so that's why I was saying maybe 8. But
8 minutes less than 3:20, so 3 minutes less than 3:50.
Yeah.
So 3:12. You thought Charlie told you needed a 3:12.
Yeah, So that's what I trained for. That's what I figured that I would need. And I thought with a downhill race, that's the only way that I'm going to take 26 minutes off of my PR from a couple years earlier, now that I'm older. Um, but it ended up being a pretty tough day. I mean, you guys have gone on that run before. I've never done a point to point before. And so they loaded us up on the bus at 3 in the morning
I remember that.
at Tuscany Casino in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then you just start driving. And I added the elevation field to my Garmin, which as a Winnipeg runner, it's just not relevant, right? I didn't even know it had that field on the watch because you just don't pay attention to elevation in Winnipeg. It doesn't change.
Yeah.
And you could feel my ears popping on the bus ride up to the start line. And the watch is just going up and up. It started at 2,000 feet. And by the time they kicked us off the bus, it was 75 or 7,600.
And you still got to walk a bit of a ways up there.
Yeah. And they drop you off at what looks like a refugee camp because everyone's huddled around these patio heaters.
How cold was it when you got to the top?
It was -3.
Yeah, that's exactly like us, I think.
There's snow everywhere. People are just looking cold and tired. It was a really depressing scene to roll up to. And they gave you these gloves, which was just a lifesaver because I didn't have gloves that I was willing to throw away, right?
Yeah,
And
spend $2,000 to go do a race, but I'm not throwing a pair of gloves out.
Yeah, you just get sentimental about your stuff. And I ended up visiting a secondhand store, and it looked like everyone else had done the same thing too, because we're all dressed like hobos up there.
I did throw some gloves away for that one.
Did you?
Yeah. Did you use the space blanket?
Space blanket?
Yeah, everybody was using it.
Charlie, remember we were just huddled knee to knee, one space blanket over top, and because we hadn't worn anything else, we were just in our race kit.
Oh, really?
I had a hoodie.
Oh, I didn't bring a hoodie that day. And just freezing, like counting the minutes down to the start. Like, oh my God, am I going to make it to this race? Yeah. Refugee camp.
Can I just start running? I need to warm up here.
Yeah. Can we start?
There's nowhere to go. You're just stuck in this tiny area because they got to get the buses out of there.
Yeah.
So it was a weird start.
And then you start that big hill right off the bat, right?
Yeah, we're going up.
Yeah,
at the start.
Not big hill, but you're going up.
There's an uphill at the beginning,
and then it's down. Yeah, so you climb back the hill that the bus went down, right? If I'm not mistaken, or you go there and back or something.
You swim upstream and do a little loop, and then you're heading down.
I remember.
I got fixated on it being narrow, and I started way up near the front, which I never do. But I was in the 310 corral. Everyone around me is looking fit and fast. They're starting to glance at me because I don't quite look like these people that are around me.
I don't know about that, Bryce.
And the gun goes off, and I just take off with them and just leave the plan behind. And Coach Pat had said, for the first 10 miles, do not let your heart rate get above 150 because you can't sustain that. And the first mile, 165, I think.
That's just the excitement, though, maybe.
But yeah, I thought this is excitement. It's elevation.
Elevation is a factor. Elevation is definitely a factor there.
And it felt effortless. It was so easy running at that speed. And then the second mile, 163 and 163. It just stayed in the mid 160s. And I'm starting to get concerned, but I'm still feeling awesome. And so I just kept it going. And by mile 9, it was like blowing an engine, where suddenly I was 40 seconds slower per mile, and runners started to pass me, and it starts feeling like running backwards, right? Because everyone's moving by you at that point, and my legs felt fine, but I didn't have the thrust, if that makes sense. And I've had this happen a couple of times in my running career. You'd think I'd learn it by now. But I needed that pace. I was doing 7-minute miles. That's what I roughly would have needed to build the buffer to be able to run slower at the bottom where it's flat and where it's hotter. But it was just not sustainable. So for the final 17 miles, it it was just a death march. I think you guys have used the word pain cave, but for the final 2.5 hours,
That's
it was
really
just
early.
suffering.
That's really early to get there, Bryce.
Absolutely.
I feel
Yeah.
bad. The only thing close is that Cape Town Marathon, I would say that I did.
That was so bad.
I don't really, well, yeah, I don't really relate, but that sounds awful. Yeah.
Yeah. To blow up on a race and to realize so early that you're going to miss your goal is
What
really
mile were
rough.
you at where you're like, oh shit, this is slipping. I don't know if I have it anymore. Or like it's
12.
it's gone. You're like,
I
it's gone.
wasn't even halfway done, and I knew it was just damage control, which turned into its own experience that I'm grateful for now,
Yeah.
I feel
because
like
I
you
really
finished really strongly, considering that you were kind of out of it that early.
Yeah, you could have
Like
just coasted into
that
a 4
would
hour.
have been extremely hard mentally for me, anyways. Yeah.
it was, and so I backed the heart rate off a bit into the high 150s, and that was a little more sustainable, and I just thought whatever pace this heart rate can give me, I'll take it. And the downhill, it's helpful. There was a tailwind. It was cool out. All the conditions in my favor, except for my own mismanagement of the start of the race. And if I had started slow, I think I could have finished fast and had a much better result, which is kind of tragic after 3.5 months of training, getting ready for this thing, to just
You didn't
blow it.
listen to Charlie.
Yeah.
What do you
We
think
didn't really
happened,
talk
though?
about pacing strategy, but I would have definitely said start slow.
What do you think happened, Bryce? Because I know I was following on Strava, like you were doing your training runs, you're killing, you're getting the miles in. Like, what do you think happened? Was it the elevation? Did you just not nail the nutrition, or was it just you didn't have it that day?
I made some notes on the bus ride, because that's when your thinking gets really clear in the way back to the hotel after. And I think it was too much indoor training. I did a lot of treadmill because it's comfortable in there. I've got 3 bottles of Gatorade. I can watch the Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix to entertain myself, and got a bunch of gels stacked. And then I finish the run and I look on Strava and see like Charlie just ran up Gateway Road at a higher pace.
My favorite road. Yeah.
Outdoors, and I just had a hunch that he was on a smarter path, probably a more painful one, because it's January and he's doing this.
But
well,
wait,
I don't know about that. So I've tried to do Rob's workouts on the treadmill, and I'm hitting 8.5, and I'm like, I'm done. He hits 9.4, same treadmill.
Okay.
So I think it's just I'm not adapted to. This is my theory. I've been thinking about this. I was like, how come I suck so much on the treadmill? I think there's some adaptations that I haven't done that might be better for treadmill, but I'm more adapted for outside, I think. But also, I think it's harder on the treadmill. Like I never finish my treadmill workouts.
Oh, really?
I'm like 0 for 6. That's only
it's like a virtual reality for me. I'm so much faster on a treadmill, because then spring comes and I start running outside and I'm a minute slower right away.
Yeah.
And eventually get back to where I was. But Rob, what do you find?
I just did my last 22 milers 2 weeks ago. I did it indoors on the treadmill with a 10-mile fast finish. And then this weekend, I did it outdoors in the hills and the wind and -8 degrees in La Rivière, Manitoba. And I thought it was remarkably easier outside. I was like, man, why am I not running outside? Like, it just flew by. The miles just flew by. Now, it felt harder, way harder to do the running at the fast pace. When I'm on my treadmill, and I'm like you, I'm exactly like you. I put a show on, I zone out, I punch it, and I just stay on the treadmill. And then you just, when the miles are done, they're done. But it felt harder to motivate my legs to move at the pace that I wanted them to go.
The focus.
Yeah, the focus
that you need is.
But yet I checked my heart rate, and it was like I didn't work as hard. Anyways, so there's pros and cons, I'd say. But I'm really glad I went outside for that 22 miler, because now I hear you talk, and I'm like, fudge, that's me. I did most of my training this winter on the treadmill.
I'm going to choose my races more carefully so that I can train outside. But maybe a fall race, because you guys did what's that other Rebel one? St. George?
Yeah, we did. We did LA. What do they call it? San Bernardino, I think, or LA or Big Bear.
Big Bear.
Big Bear. Okay, that's a downhill, right? And
Yeah,
it's
they're all
in the
downhill.
fall?
All those.
Slightly easier course, Big Bear, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
also,
wider.
Okay.
I agree. Fall marathons are where PRs are supposed, like for us anyways, because it's so hard for us to train in the winter. I think.
Yeah.
No matter what, either you're doing it on treadmill and that's not 100% ideal, or you're doing it on the snow and that's not ideal. So I feel like PRs for Manitoba, if you're from Manitoba, you do your PRs in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've run outside in the summer, it's 1,000,000 degrees, and now the weather comes down and you just find that extra gear all of a sudden in October.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're thinking it's a treadmill combination, maybe the altitude, but I mean, I don't know. I think like Charlie said, you finished strong, and it did look like that part at the end where it's flat. It probably felt like you were going uphill, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember thinking I was going uphill for that part.
And the runners around me, like initially I was surrounded by elite runners, but I got passed by 600 people. So it was like this de-evolution line of less and less fit people going by me. And then for the last couple of miles, it was just a handful of us sort of stuck together unwillingly. We just couldn't go any faster. And it was like a zombie march. You know, we're all limping along, people are injured, and we just wanted to be over by then.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah. Marathons are hard, someone I know says all the time. And then you finish in town there, and I remember that finish. That was a fun day. Obviously not for you. Sorry it didn't go your way, Bryce, but the good news is
Thanks.
you could have, I mean, you're actually not that far off. As shitty as you think the day went, like you're whatever, 20 minutes or whatever. Well, you finished with a 3:37, is that right?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. So it
was actually very close to your PR anyways.
Yeah, only a couple minutes slower than Disney.
Yeah.
And not terrible, but
blew up or whatever.
Yeah, for the final few miles, I was thinking about how I'm never going to run again. But then by that night, I was Googling races.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, Bryce.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that.
Because there's one in Quebec that Nikki found. That's a Boston qualifier. It's downhill. I think it's like
come do Chicago with us. Come do Chicago with us.
Chicago.
Get in on a charity bid. I'm taking an RV.
Okay.
No, just get in on a charity bid. It's like $2,000. And I have an RV and I'm getting an Airbnb, and there's a crew of Manitobans coming. You could be the 8th person in our RV.
Wow. You got a lot of guys going. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like Colin Lafreniere and me and Todd and Charlie and Simo and Paul Grenier. And there's a good, maybe I oversold the seat.
There's going to be some speed in there.
There's going to be some speed. Yeah.
Colin Lafreniere, he's ready to go. 19 minutes.
I love seeing his workouts.
He's gonna get in shape, I think.
Hey, Bryce, we're coming up on your time here. I want to respect your time. Do you have any last words or anything else you want to add?
By the way,
I could talk to you for another.
Rob, can I ask?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're gonna go over.
But it's Bryce. I don't want this. Is there a hard stop that you have, Bryce?
No, we got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
So, like in terms of what made you feel like you were slowing down, was it like, did you feel anything like with your quads or anything, or was it like did the downhill affect you, or was it more just like your heart rate was just too high and you can handle it?
I think it was just the heart. The legs felt like they could have done more.
Yeah.
And it was almost out of body because I was willing them to do more, but the energy just wasn't there. It was wild.
So on that, like, I think one of the things that I learned from the 777 thing, I feel like probably this is the thing that I learned is that like one day to the other, your body's different. Like you're a different person. Like, so there's so much luck, I feel like, involved in getting a good race that people don't realize. People think they're 100% in control or whatever, but no matter what, there's always luck involved in like how you feel that day. Because like from one day to another, you can feel completely different. So there's always a bit of luck there. So
I do think there was a factor. I've been watching my resting heart rate on Fitbit, and in good times when I'm training well, it's down in the high 40s. But on race week, it was just creeping up every day by 1 beat. And by race day, I think it was 55 or 56. And I didn't get a head cold or anything. I still don't know why it was going up. I wasn't drinking any alcohol. I was eating semi-cleanly. I didn't have any reason why it would go up, but it did. It kind of spooked me too.
Yeah.
Wondering
Yeah, that's true.
Is my body off? Is there something wrong right now?
Were you feeling a lot of pressure from like kind of your expectations of hitting that 312 and maybe other external forces?
I think so. Yeah, it just blinded me to the facts, that early feedback in the race, and I chose not to adapt.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can learn that lesson from this, because it was an expensive lesson. The window of opportunity was there, and it closed partially because I wasn't making the right decisions at the start of the race. So that's something to reflect on.
I am convinced, Bryce, that you're going to come back stronger. And marathon running is a skill that every time we do one, you, me, Charlie, we all get better at it. You learned a valuable lesson today. We're always learning. And you did the training, you're going to do it again, and you will qualify for Boston. Like, it's in your control.
Thanks.
And I think you're going to get there. I know you will. And Charlie, did you have a question to ask him about Saturday, your big playoff game or something?
Yeah, big finals game. You don't have to answer, but am I going to be goalie or forward?
You're getting cut from goalie and they're putting you D? Is that what's
Yeah,
happening?
they've been wanting to
goalie?
cut me from goalie for a long time.
Well, I couldn't get a read on you because we were communicating.
He's tough to get a read on, that brother of mine.
But do you have a preference?
Do you want to win? Is the question.
I want to be forward so we win.
Okay,
but I'm okay. But at the same time, I don't want to feel like we're kind of gaming the system either, too, because I think that like just me being forward makes a pretty big difference on the team.
Division
Absolutely.
13.
Yeah, the amount of offense and defense that you inject into the team as a skater. Daryl, the convener, let us do it because we were short guys, and it was the only way to add a skater.
Yeah.
We're a little bench looks longer for this one, so I might not be able to pull it
off.
I'll
win my first cup as goalie. That's awesome.
In net, okay. But I think we'll have some of our more experienced players back for this one.
Is that Saturday? What time is that at for those who want to follow on Live Barn?
3 p.m. at the Canland.
Big
3
game.
p.m.
Big
okay, 3
game.
p.m. at the Canland. My hockey semifinal is Saturday night, 7 p.m. at the Dakota Northern Rink, Dakota Rink 1.
Is it
the Priests in playoffs? What's that?
Is it the Priests or the
Priest?
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that Bryce is also the manager of the year, 8 years running or something.
That's our last season. The team's going to fold after this, so we'll want it to be a memorable.
Are you serious? You're folding the team because you don't have time?
Just surgeries and injuries. One guy died this year. It's been a really rough time for our team.
Yeah, that would scar. Charlie talked about it on the podcast. That's crazy. Some guy died.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And he was such a great guy too. Of course, it always has to go that way, doesn't it?
It's crazy.
It's not the same without him.
If you want to do a different race, and Chicago's a nice, flat, easy course. So, I mean, it's not downhill. You're not going to get the cheater. You're not going to get that, but you're going to have a good time if you want to have a good time. But if you want to qualify for Boston, I would focus on like probably the Big Bear one. It's probably the one you want to run.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So good luck with that. Charlie, we'll wrap it up there. Do you want to give everyone a quick update? I mean, we got one more episode before Boston. We could talk about it next week, but training's going well. You flew to Germany. You're back now. You're ready. You're feeling good. Hay is officially in the barn.
Yeah. A 310.
Oh, this sandbagger attitude. Sandbagger attitude.
If everything goes well, and I'll run a 310 if I get the win behind my back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I call BS. But
sub 3 for sure.
Sub 3, it's there. And then when you do sub 3,
I can't even do 4 miles at sub 3 pace.
Listen, we're excited for you for sub 3, and it's got to be a possibility in your mind. It's got to be a possibility in your mind.
It's gone down since 2 weeks ago, so we'll see.
What does Chad have you at? Plus 200? Plus 250?
I don't know. 1%.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Okay. All right. Well, anyways, you and I will talk more next week, Charlie, on the pre-episode. We're recording that Friday, I believe. So don't expect it to be dropped on Thursday as per normal episodes. It'll get dropped next Friday, your pre-Boston Marathon episode. And then boom, you're running Boston. Then boom, I'm running London. Then boom, we're running the relay.
The
You and I-
WBS?
Yeah. We're doing the
You
relay.
guys are gonna win that thing. Good for you.
I hope so.
No,
I
no,
hope so.
there's like 110 teams in there, but
We're gonna do our absolute best.
top
And
10 will
Top
be
10.
good.
Top 10 is
Yeah.
what we want. And then I'm doing the 100K Suffer on a Stale the week after. So it's a fun time right now.
Wow.
It's a fun time. Sundin, thank you for joining us. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop. Charlie's shaking his head. He's like, I don't like when you do that. Bryce, thank you so much for joining us. Probably the guy who inspired me the most to go down this path of Ironman. I was like, man, if that guy can do it, I can do it for sure. That's not a chirp. I'm serious. And thank you for being there for me when I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I would text you like, hey, am I supposed to put like Vaseline in my shorts? And you were like explaining me what I had to do and everything.
The chamois cream.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember one time I texted you, hey, he hasn't replied to my races. Oh, you probably don't have a setting because he's always replying every day. Anyways, thank you for guiding me through my first one. And thanks for coming on today and chatting about your journey. We appreciate it, guys. Hope your training's going well. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Give us a quick review. We appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Remember, more miles, less pace. Let's go.